Good evening, everyone. We want to thank you for attending tonight's commission meeting. We'll now call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kane. Markley.
Here.
Walters. Holland.
Here. Tonight, the invocation is being given by Reverend Mike May, retired of St. Luke's Lutheran Church, proving the point that pastors never retire, they just go out to pastor.
This is your second time around with me tonight. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay. You did an excellent job the first time.
All right, thank you. We pray. Almighty Father, as the daylight hours increase and the sun's rays strengthen, we are encouraged to see that frozen grasp of winter loosen its grip and see the life begin to sprout again from warm and fertile soil. Bless all who labor to produce a bountiful harvest, whether that be large tracts of grain, urban plots of vegetables for downtown neighborhoods, or the harvest of beauty from spring and summer flowers. Thank you for your bountiful earth. Make us wise and caring managers of what is not ours, but yours. Likewise, make us wise and caring managers of the freedoms we are so blessed to experience in this nation and in this city. Help us not to trade them in for the illusion of security through the exercise of cruel control over one another. Save us from and prevent us from injuring the fabric of governance with harsh and thoughtless speech. Create in us as citizens and in those who exercise authority the capacity to advise and lead with winning wisdom and carefully crafted persuasion. When we must resist, let it be as humble servants of one another, seeking a better way. Bless this meeting here tonight with the grace and generosity and order of your beautifully created universe. In the name of your beloved Son, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. Excellent job. I'd like to now ask Ms. Cobbins, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a blue sheet has been distributed. Under Commissioner's agenda, we have a relocation of an item. It's going to be item number 2, a resolution for the Legacy Park Estates for the LIHTC project. This item was moved from the Mayor's agenda to the Commissioner's agenda as item number 2.
Thank you. That now brings us to our consent agenda. Does any member of the commission, staff, or citizen in attendance tonight wish to set aside an item on tonight's consent agenda? Please do so and step forward with your name and city of residence for the record and ask that it be set aside. Any item not set aside will be voted upon by a single vote. Commissioner Walters?
I'd like to set aside item 5 as I will be recusing myself from that item.
Second.
All right, item 5 is set aside. Let the record show no one else is moving forward to remove an item. It is properly before us. Roll call.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. Item 5 is now before us, and we will recognize Commissioner Walters has recused himself. Roll call.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, we have a number of items before us. The first is a resolution for memorandum of understanding with the Carpenters Union. Now, I want to ask legal, is each bullet point a separate motion? Or Mr. Bach, you might answer that. It is one approval.
We just need approval of the resolution.
Seeing no comment, roll call.
Roll call, Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Brings us to item number 2, Memorandum of Understanding with the Wyandotte County Sheriff's Department and FOP 40.
Second.
Seeing no comment, roll call.
Roll call, Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Before we move to the next item, I do want to recognize the statement in here that shows that 64% of our union workforce is now under contract. 6 months ago, that was 0. And I want to commend Administrator Bach and your team and our legal team for your hard work on this. Thank you very much. That brings us to item number 3, which is a reappropriation of our CDBG fund distribution. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Connor to make comment on. No, Ms. Munt, I apologize.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is an item that we'd had back before you in February to reallocate funds that we needed to expend by August 1st of this year. Unfortunately, Habitat for Humanity was not able to accept the funds at this time, and staff is looking for us to reallocate those dollars to a project we know can be completed in a timely manner, and this would be to further the transit, sidewalks, and ADA ramps throughout the community.
All right, this item is before us. Is there discussion or a motion?
Second.
Seeing no comment, roll call.
Roll call, Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
No.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. The vote is 9-1. That motion carries.
All right, that brings us to item number 4, a presentation from the 311 Call Center Data Portal. Mr. Bach, would you like to make any preliminary comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Many of you are aware when we started out with our 311 system back in 2007, we had big plans for this system. We were able to start from a perspective of how we would make this a tool, of one where we could start our work orders, track different items, and we started down that path. However, due to the recession and other matters, we derailed many of those plans and had to unfund many of the things we were working on. Since that time, we're now putting it back on track where I believe what was originally planned to be the 311 Citizen Service Center, and that being the change from just being a call center, as you'll note in the headline of this, because it is planned here to be a much more interactive tool, much more dynamic for the use of our citizens going forward. At this time, I'd like to recognize Brett Deichler over our 311 Center, and who will be making the presentation tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Bach, and thank you to the Mayor and Commission. As Mr. Bach has alluded, we have gone through some extensive upgrades to bring this, what was the call center, it was always operational, obviously, but bring it into more of a service center profile. Tonight, I'd like to go through a handful of slides to show you some snapshots, basically, of what that represents, and to talk about some of those benefits. In moving forward, the Citizen Self-Service Portal is going to be an online web portal that will allow our constituency and our staff to basically go out and to download this onto their device, any type of device as well. We'll talk about that a little bit in the future. We will be presenting a mobile app that will be Apple, basically iOS and Android, Google Play pertinent once we get that out in about 60 days, 90 days. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. But really important, it's got case management and workflow, which is going to allow us to manage to the task that we're trying to get to. It basically allows us to take and become a data center, set up the central repository, manage those types of data profiles that will ultimately allow us as individuals internally and externally to basically identify how well we do what we think we're going to do. As part of that, too, we've got an integrated mapping solution that is part of this first initial release. And then we get into the business intelligence profile, which basically allows us to talk a little bit about the identification and storage and analysis of the data as it sits. So data mining and data storage, two different types of things. We'll talk a little bit more about those as we move forward. This is a basic snapshot of the portal itself, which will allow the constituents to go in, grab the information, make a request, track that request, or even map that request. As you'll see, you can go using the yellow slide bars up top. They're active links that will allow anybody to basically click on those. I'll show you what those screens look like behind there. But the important thing is to remember, once you submit that, we need to be able to track that. In tracking that, we will show that there's going to be a series of responses that come out through automation from our office that will allow the automation to notify the constituent that we did receive their request. Once that goes into a work order or workflow status, it will also send them a mid-level support ticket that allows them to identify that we're now working on that with an expected date of closing. And then once we close that, it'll send a closure statement too. So there's emails that follow up via automation. There are also, there'll be a closing statement there that allows them to go ahead and grade how well we've done what we thought we did. In doing that right there, we'll move this forward. I'm going to blow this up a little bit. We started with 8 primary tiles, basically to allow us to separate some of these classifications. And in looking at that, you'll notice we took a survey down inside the call center and said, what do we really get hit with? So we started trying to separate those types of tiles and to identify those in our first what we call the V101.0 release here. And as you'll notice, we say report code violation issues, and we put some samples down there with weeds, trash, and abandoned vehicles. That kind of lets people know what these icons represent. As we get further into this program, which this thing will need to expand, obviously, we're going to plug more departments in here, and you'll see more of these tabs that come into play, and we'll basically do that based on trending and series analysis once we get further into this. The reporting streetlights issues, we took that, and we wanted to make that very clear. During an emergency or some type of critical notice for the BPU, we still transfer that call. That's something that needs to go straight into their call center immediately, so we don't sit there and try to handle that type of call. We did put down basically that we will take, if there's a street light that's out or something like that, we'll handle those types of calls like we always do. But the integration with the BPU right now is basically taking things that are sensitive, time sensitive, or emergency based, and putting those back over to that 9190 number. Submitting municipal court requests, obviously we do a lot of that volume on a daily basis, so we're very busy with that. Reporting minor potholes, same type of thing for public works. We're working to integrate Lucidity right now. We've got about a 90 to 120 day profile with their work order system. We're working very closely with DOTS and their staff and Lucidity right now to identify what that task is going to entail, and look at the little bit of the development features on the backside of that. We should have that out there in about 120 days as well. It'll actually improve some of the capacity of the Lucidity product. And we'll also talk a little bit about NRC, because we're going to work with the Excella product in that fashion too on the version 2.0. But storm debris, trash, parks and recreation, putting parks and their mapping component on there, being able to go out, identify what's available for leasing or renting a shelter, and being able to pay that right online. We want to be able, if people come through this, to have them come straight to this portal and do that too. And then we've got a general classification there. But when all these are added to the front end of this thing, and we start to file these in the back end and look at the data side, we can start to analyze a little bit closer what we're actually trying to get to here. This is the basic biographic right here, which takes all the bio information, allows the person who's entering the ticket to put in the relevant information. We've got some requirements in here that if they want to be emailed, they obviously put their email in here. It's not mandatory. Some of these things do require mandatory fields, so when we get a free-form text box, we at least get that to the department so they can actually see what it is, because sometimes people call in, they don't really know what they're looking for and what the department is. Hopefully when we get these online, we can sort these very quickly. The next page here shows the mapping feature, which will allow the constituent to basically go in and look and see what's going on. You can look at this chronologically and see what's coming in on a daily basis. The importance of this is you can follow and track your own requests. You can track similar kind requests. You can look and see what's going on in your individual districts, et cetera, and report right straight through here. Crystal Herr is actually here tonight. I'm going to have her walk in front of you, if I may. I want to show that this development's also what we call a responsive website. That means any type of device that you utilize, whether it's the phone or the tablet or on your desktop, when you turn these things sideways, it reformats so you're not constantly scrolling through and trying to find the center points or the hot buttons or the links on these things. It's a very formidable feature, but it's something that we definitely need in this, and it's something we made sure that was absolutely done right. So it's done now. And we're very proud to say that that's there. Here's a couple quick snapshots of what's going to be released in mid-July. Now, this is a full-blown app. Right now, we will have basically a landing page out there that's mobile-friendly that will allow our constituents to save that to their telephone or their device. They will click and go to that. Once we get this full-blown device out there, it obviously lands and empowers the device a little bit better. So we're working right now closely with the company that's going to allow us to put that in there, and we'll be able to make this a more dynamic system. But this thing allows you to take a snapshot. It's got geo codes built into it. It allows you to submit the pictures, anything you want to do. It also shows the chronological orders. There's several screens in here. We can do the mapping component, everything that's in the original V10 is going to be inside of this with a few more features there, but coming very soon. But that's a very good feature as well. This is very important right here. We talk about case management and workflow. And this is, I think, is more important than anything we've said probably tonight. When we get down here, we say, what does all this really mean? In my opinion, you start talking about data input and where does that actually come from. You look at what the web portal does, the mobile app, and then our CSRs who are actually in the call center themselves. Once they put that data inside of there, we start to look and say, what's the business intelligence actually going to allow us to do in respect to performance? We could sit here and talk all day long and try to guess at things. It's not going to work. I think in the future when we utilize these data models and we start building smart data and reports and trend these things, we'll be able to manage to that task a little bit better. Part of that is going to be an executive dashboard. Now these dashboards will come out, we'll stabilize them, we'll put things inside there. I'll meet with anybody that we need to, and obviously there's a few people that are obviously on that list that we'll need to meet with up front. But it will allow us to basically determine what we need to see in real time. So it should be on your device. You could go in there, pop that up, see what we're doing in the call center, see what the most common features are, what's being asked, how well we're actually doing instead of just guessing at what we're doing. Once that goes live, we'll be able to manage that a little bit further. We'll do quarterlies, biannuals, et cetera, and refine some of those dashboards and even build some more proprietary specific dashboards that go into the individual areas of concern. Talking about transparency and accountability, this is really important stuff. I've always said we don't want to guess at what we do. We want to actually talk about business and find out what it takes to become that. Looking at this here is a great snapshot that allows us to say what actually happened and you know, the effective outcome towards that. Now, when measuring outcomes, you have to look and say, why did that happen as well? Talking about performance initiatives, I mean, that's very important. So we will measure those types of things, get to that, why did it happen feature to understand better, to allow us to, as an agency, not only understand it, but to actually put cost allocations behind it so we can literally see how well we do what we think we do. And then this last feature here talks about optimization. This is where we plug it back into what we're doing right now in integrated business models. I think the intelligence and the workflow is built into this thing, but once we get behind this, we're going to have to be very proactive in what we do to manage these data sets. We don't want to just let them sit there. We want to go ahead and utilize them and have total transparency and clarity behind that. In stating that, here's a snapshot right here, basically, of what the dashboard would look like. We can certainly go in here and dissect this in any type of way we want to. Starting on Monday, we're going to go ahead and wipe the test data clean and start from brand new, and that's going to be a clean slate, and we'll start to see what needs to be populated in here, and I'll talk to Doug and staff, and we'll start to put this thing together, which you know, is more relevant for the first 30, 60, 90, et cetera. And I think that's a pretty good example of what, you know, this thing's going to represent. So we look into the remaining steps. We talk about the official V10 release date. Now, this is a soft date. I'd like to say, yes, it's still a very firm date because it's a fully active V10 version. And the only difference that we don't have right here is basically the full-blown mobile app feature yet, which is coming in about 90 days. We will also continue to work forward with the big applications like Excella and Lucidity and Public Works and NRC. The data sets out there are very horizontal to us right now. We want to get to those and make them as vertical as possible so we can start to mine the data. Also with the planned V20 features, we'll talk a little bit more as budget moves along on how to move this thing forward and to get down to that critical data set that we're trying to get to and make sure that this thing manages out into the future. The 2013 version that it's the most recent CRM version that Microsoft has put out to date. We basically brought that back up to speed, and that's why we're here tonight to talk about that and how this integrates with what our business mindset is. But I'd like to say, you know, 10 years ago, Mr. Bach come to me and asked me about 311. He asked me what I knew about it, and we had a conversation. I'd say within 45 minutes or so, we came out of there with a plan to build this thing. And the vision has never changed, and that's the type of foresight and leadership that this organization needs, and I'm proud to say that I was asked to do that. And this is what we brought it back to today, so now we can plug and play and have the dynamics that we really need to get the mobility out there and to also get the operational foundations built internally so we can support what we do, and that way we can really understand at a greater level of how well we do what we do. This thing is certainly a community effort, and we're changing our title. We used to say one municipality, one contact, to one community and one contact at this point, because this is a two-way revolving door. And we are here to basically put this thing in motion and start to move it forward and to give you the information you need to manage what we do very well. At this point in time, I'd like to go ahead and take some questions if you have that.
Well, I'd like to just start and say I was here in '07, and you were well on the way to this. And then the recession hit, and we gutted it. So this, I feel like deja vu. We're catching up to where you would have had us 9 years ago.
Yes, sir.
If we had stayed on track with the funding. And I'm very pleased to see you've stayed with it, and I'm very pleased to see that this is finally coming to fruition. And just for our community's sake, it's not that we don't have the talent in the organization to roll this out, but when the recession hit and we pulled the funding, it made it impossible. And so we're taking a huge leap forward now to catch back up with where other municipalities are. And I just want to thank our IT department. Thank you, Mr. Deichler, and everyone that's worked on this, because this innovation and this level of customer service is a goal that this commission has set and is a priority of mine as well. And it's a big deal to be able to provide this kind of level of service where someone can actually take a picture of the graffiti and send that in, and our guys and gals who are going to go out and abate that graffiti can actually see what they're looking for. It's a big deal, and I'm just very excited that you're moving this forward. Mr. McKiernan.
Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I wasn't here in '07, so this is a quantum leap forward, and I just have to say I'm thrilled. I think you and your team have done excellent work, and I think this is exactly the kind of tool and information that is going to be beneficial not only to us, but also to all the people in Wyandotte County. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to say thank you to Todd Kinney and his staff as well. Without Todd's leadership in DOTS, I tell you, this would be tough. I don't think any of us would be standing here tonight, and I'm proud to say that I work side by side with Todd, and as is his team. It's a team effort. This is not an I thing. This is a we thing. And Todd is very good at what he does, and Todd's done a great job on this, as his staff has as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Murguia.
Thanks, Mayor. Brett, you beat me to it. I was just going to say I very seldom get the opportunity to thank our IT department. Mr. Kinney, you have an amazing staff. I definitely challenge them, as I'm sure you've heard, on challenges with technical issues, and they've done a fantastic job. They're always very respectful, very professional, really try to think out of the box and innovative. I'm very grateful for our IT department.
I agree.
You're welcome.
All right, anyone else? All right, this is great stuff. Now, you did mention that the commissioners couldn't go on and see by district what kind of calls are coming in.
We will be able to refine data. We'll work a little bit with layering some mapping in there. Whether we break that into a commissioner's district or by zip, we'll have to work a little bit to do that, but we should be able to sort any type of data we need to once we start compiling.
I would think, and I'd check the consensus of this group, I would think we'd prefer to see it by district. Is that right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, let's make sure we layer in the district level, both for calls that are currently out, but also if we could layer in the reporting, because we used to get quarterly reports on what was happening in our districts and what kind of calls are coming in. And that's helpful for the commissioners to know what kind of calls our citizens are making as they call into the city. So thank you very much for that too.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
All right. I believe, does that conclude the presentation?
It does, sir.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the commission agenda. And the first item is a travel request for Commissioner Philbrook. Going to Manhattan, and it looks like it's Manhattan, Kansas, not Manhattan, New York.
Move to approve. Second.
Seeing no comment, roll call.
Roll call. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
All right, that brings us to our, I believe, our final item tonight. Let me confirm that because I often say that and it's not true. Okay, this is our final item. This is a resolution for Legacy Parks, Park Estates low-income housing. It's a LIHTC project. This was brought to the standing committee, and it did fail on standing committee. The district commissioner asked that I bring it forward for consideration in the full commission. I will ask our legal to describe that process for us.
Well, Mayor and Commission, there are 4 different sections of the agendas. There's the mayor's agenda, the administrator's agenda, the standing committee agenda, and the commissioner's agenda. In order for an item to advance to the standing committee agenda, it has to have 4 affirmative votes from the standing committee. In this case, there were only 4 members there, and it was a split vote 2-2. And the district commissioner, whose district this project's in, was not on that committee but supported this project. I think there was also some confusion expressed at the standing committee about whether this item was going to advance to the full commission with a recommendation of denial. But given all those factors, Commissioner Philbrook asked that it be placed on the commissioner's agenda, which just takes either 1 or more commissioners to request and the mayor to approve, and that was the process by which this is placed on the agenda.
All right, Commissioner Walker.
I have a point of order. Are you saying then that it's your legal opinion that if the standing committee determines that an item should not move forward, that any commissioner then may request that this item be placed on a full committee agenda?
I think the rule.
I want to know because this is going to come up again where something maybe that one of us wants to be heard gets rejected by the committee. And I want to know, is this a uniform thing or is this up to the discretion of the mayor?
Well, to be placed on the mayor's agenda, the administrator's agenda, or the commissioner's agenda does require the approval of the mayor. And so I think each item, the rules do allow that since we're doing it in this situation here. But I think each are obviously going to be evaluated under the circumstances, and there are multiple factors in this particular case that justified moving it forward. I don't know whether those same factors would occur in future cases, so it's hard to say what the result will be.
Commissioner Kane?
Well, I've only been here for a year or 2, but that's never happened in the 11 years I've been here. When something went down, it went down. And I was never given the opportunity to bring something up that I wanted to bring up in front of the commissioners before. And I don't even know what the item is, to be honest about it, but and like Commissioner Walker says, because this is going to be an ongoing thing. Why would we have a standing committee, and why would they make a decision, and then why would I guess what I'm saying, I've never had it happen before. I don't know why we'd start doing it now.
All right, I will just state briefly, I think our legal has identified the unusual circumstances here in terms of the committee people being absent, and there was confusion expressed on the record by one of the commissioners that said they thought this would still move forward with a recommendation for denial. We do need to state that the standing committee did vote 2-2, which required 4 votes to pass. It did fail, and because of the unusual circumstances and the commissioner of the district in whose district this resides asked it to be brought forward, that was my decision. So I'll take responsibility for that. I will ask for the presentation now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Charles Brockman with Economic Development Department. Tonight, what we're wanting to do is seeking a resolution of support for the Legacy Park Estates LIHTC application that will be moving forward to the Kansas Housing Resource Center. Give a perspective of where the site is. Right in the middle of the slide is 65th Street and I-70. So it's just to the east of the BPU symbol there. That sets on about that. There's a close-up there. That sits on about 12 acres, more or less. It's going to be a 30-unit construction, single-family, all-brick homes, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. The total estimated construction cost is $8.2 million, and from the beginning to the end is 1 year in construction. So I want to speak a little bit about the point metrics, the scoring. Previously, before 2014, we had to have a minimum of 50 points to move forward into the EDNF, an applicant. So what we did is we spent a lot of time on it with the standing committee. We went through different changes like demolition, management, just different types of developments, mixed-use developments, and molded that how the standing committee wanted us to bring projects forward. So in 2014, the one thing that the most significant change for an applicant was the 80 points. So it increased by 30 points by doing all of the things that we were instructed to do. So in this case, Legacy made that, and they scored 86 points, which is the highest of all three that's ever come through after the 80 points. So, you know, I'm going to go back for a quick. One thing that we have heard loud and clear through those discussions with EDNF, there's two things. Is it increasing the AMI for the area? And two, is it increasing the assessed value of the area? So we wanted to look at that. And the property tax right now is roughly $1,200. After the construction, the value tax is going to be $97,000 estimated. So it has clearly made that. The other thing is we wanted to look at, for that area, there's $31,207 is the median household income for that area. So with the developer's model of a family of 4, we can see that it's going to be 40% right in there for that area household income. So that means there's 30 units, so that means 26 units are going to increase with the AMI. So it achieved that as well. So at this time, I wanted to bring up the developers, and they can introduce themselves to you. And then after they have their presentation, I'm glad to take questions of either the developer or me. So this is the pen. That's the back and forth.
Gotcha. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the mayor and the commissioners for having us here this evening. I'm Greg Rodewald with Belmont Development out of Oklahoma City. This is my colleague, Laney Schubert, and we've also brought one of the principals of our company, Ryan Hudspeth. Just to give you a quick presentation, I think we were able to give a more detailed presentation to the standing committee about a week ago or so. As I indicated, we are Belmont Development Company. We are headquartered out of Oklahoma City. We have offices in Fort Smith, Arkansas, in Topeka, Kansas. We basically have a strong Midwest presence. Currently, Belmont Development has over 170 properties that we owned and have developed, which is a little over 4,000 units. Actually, it's about 4,300 or so units as we speak today. Those are single-family homes, duplexes, apartments. All in all, the portfolio of affordable housing that we have is in excess of 4,000 units. Just a basic map of the presence that we are primarily located in. It is a 6-state presence. We do have a few properties here and there in some other states, but predominantly the states that you see highlighted in red on the map before you is the primary presence of Belmont Development and Belmont Management, Belmont Construction, the Belmont companies, if you will. That's our primary focus. We don't try to be everything to everybody. We do what we do well, and we do it in the area that we understand how to operate in.
If we were to branch off into New York City, things might not go as well. We understand the Midwest. That's been our presence for a number of years now, and that's where we focus all of our attention. Legacy Park Estates consist of 30 single-family homes, as Charles indicated. All homes are 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. All are 100% brick. Currently, the design of Legacy Park Estates includes 5 different single-family homes, 5 different plans, if you will, and you see those house plans in front of you now. Every property that we develop, we think it's important to have what we call a clubhouse. Some folks call it a community building. We call it a clubhouse. The clubhouse at Legacy Park Estates will look primarily like what you see there. Once again, it will be 100% brick to tie in with the fabric of the neighborhood, if you will. In there, we have our on-site property management offices, our on-site maintenance offices. We have a library. We have a multi-station computer lab for the lessees that live in our lease property. We have a fitness center. We have a full kitchen. So it's sort of a one-stop shop, if you will, for the lessees of our development. And that's the amenities, if you will, for lack of a better word, that we have planned for this clubhouse. The floor plan itself for the clubhouse, we don't have a slide for you for that, but it was submitted in the many, many pages and binders of documents that we have submitted to the unified government to even get us to this point. So if you have a chance, you can look at the floor plan of the clubhouse and see those various amenities that we just discussed. I just wanted to show a few previous projects that we have. These are some duplexes and some single-family stuff that we have built in northwest Oklahoma City. We've done things, as you saw from that previous map, in 6 other states, but this is something a lot more similar, if you will, to what we plan on building here in Wyandotte County, so we felt it pertinent. In previous applications and binders and stuff that we have sent to the unified government, to the ED&F staff, we have provided them pictures of projects in various states, from Texas to Arkansas to Kansas, et cetera. But our presentation time was somewhat limited here this evening, so we wanted to keep it to the design that we are proposing for Wyandotte County, so that's what you see in front of us. There's the basic site plan for Legacy Park Estates. I think as Charles had indicated, I-70's to the north there, Riverview's to the south, there's vacant lots to the east, BPU I believe is to the west if I'm not mistaken. We have 30 single-family homes, as you can see, laid out there in the site plan on the 12.35 acres. Some of the outdoor amenities that we have planned there that we presented, we put those into the proposal. One, because we were given points, if you will. As Charles indicated, it took a minimum of 80 points to get us to even be heard. Part of that process was to agree to do certain things. Part of the outdoor amenities that we have were just for that reason, to get us the points so we could even have an audience here this evening. We have over 300 feet per unit of paved walking trails. We have outdoor barbecue areas. We have gazebos. We have community gardens. We've done what we believe to be a great job to put a lot of outdoor amenities along with this development, for folks. Not to mention the sidewalks. The 300 feet per unit of paved walking is over and above the sidewalks. So we've tried to allocate a lot of green space, if you will, to the development. The single-family homes themselves come fully equipped. They are maintenance-free. They come with your range, your microwave, your refrigerator, washer and dryer, et cetera. The homes in terms of square footage range from 1,800 to 1,900 square feet. As I indicated previously, they are maintenance-free. If a fridge breaks down, it is the responsibility of the lessor, which is us, to take care of that. Part of the thing that we really like about Legacy Park Estates, it is structured as a lease purchase development. In other words, folks that live there, that decide to lease from us, if they so choose, they don't have to, but if they so choose, they can sign a lease agreement with us. And over the period that they have lived there, once the compliance period from Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code that governs the affordable housing credits burns off, they have an opportunity to buy that home. To take that one step further, for every year that a qualified lessee lives there, and a good example is day one, a lessee decides they want to participate in the lease purchase concept of what we're trying to do here. They sign the lease agreement. For every year that they live here, they are given a 3% discount off the fair appraised value of the home at the end of 15 years. So at the end of 15 years, they have been provided a lot of education, a lot of training, and at the end of the day, they have a 45% discount to purchase the home from us. So we're not only allowing folks to move into home ownership, but to build wealth, for families as well. And that's, primarily the whole concept behind the lease purchase. And at that point, I'll just open it up for questions and answers, and I'm sure there's plenty, so.
All right, Commissioner Philbrook.
So this is the time that I wanted to get to, because
Sure.
I wanted to understand. So that means that you place they get a certain percentage off of that house. Now, is that off of the original price, or is that off of the price that it's valued at the time, 15 years later?
At the end of the 15-year compliance period, if that lessee has chosen to purchase the home, an independent third-party appraisal will be conducted at that time to determine a fair market value of the home at that time. Based on that fair market value at the end of 15 years, based on the number of years that they have lived there times 3%, that's the discount that lessee receives to purchase the home.
So if the house is worth $187,000 when they move in it the first day, and they stay there for 15 years, what could they possibly buy that place for?
That's a loaded question.
Well, sure it is.
It truly is.
We deal with loaded all the time.
Sure.
That's why I'm asking.
I'll give you a loaded answer. So I don't think anybody understands or can put a dollar amount to what we believe that house to be worth at the end of 15 years. I think we all saw what happened in 2008. We would like to think that the government has put safeguards in place, Dodd-Frank, et cetera, that those things aren't going to happen again. We would like to think that increasing the tax base, increasing the value of the land, that those homes are only going to appreciate over that 15-year period. We don't know that to be true. So to be honest, I can't tell you exactly what I think the home is going to be worth at the end of 15. But whatever, whether it has appreciated or depreciated, if they have entered into that agreement with us to purchase that home at the end of 15 years, no matter what's happened in the housing market in the interim, whatever that appraised value is, they are allowed that discount that they have earned to be a lessee through time.
So it's not based at all on what the value of the house is at the end, it's the percentage from the beginning?
No, it's based exactly on what the value of that home is worth with an independent third-party appraisal.
The third time, okay. All
And
right.
if they have lived there for 10 years, they get 3% per year, they've earned a 30% discount off of the appraised value.
30% of whatever that is.
Of whatever that number is, correct.
Okay. I just had to grind that in because I'm like,
Sure.
So you said something earlier about somebody did about, I know. It was Charles that said something. You want to come forward, Charles? You guys all stay there because God knows what I'm going to ask next. You said that the average income in that area is
31,000.
around 31,000. Okay, so most of them, I mean, there's only 4 that are set at about that, around that income, and so all the rest of them are above that income. So we're asking people with a higher income level to move into my area and increase not only property values, but also income level of people that live in that area.
That is correct.
Okay, oh darn, okay. And so, what's the downside to this? Well, I mean, what could be the downside to this?
To be perfectly honest, I don't see a downside. This is it met all of the requirements to move forward, and I believe it's a quality project.
Okay, okay. Thank you for answering my questions.
Commissioner Walker.
I have a number of questions.
Yes.
Mr. Brockman, have you put pen to paper on what 30 homes will do to the average median income in that census block? Say they build these houses and every one of them is at about the average income or the maximum that is required for that. You know, you've got some at 30, some at, well, if you put it up, can you put that back up there, Tim? That right there. 4 of them are at 40%, 6 at 50, you can read it, and 12 at 60, and then 8 at market rates. Now, I'm no math genius, so I'm not going to state I know this for accuracy. But if you sold all 30 of those houses in that census tract, you'd be lucky to make $100 difference in the average median income in that census tract. Do you happen to know?
I did not do that math.
Okay, we'll move on then.
If I could, I would just say that if we have a tenant, if we have a lessee that has wanted to own a home, that they see this as their only opportunity, they enter into a lease agreement with us on day one. They go through the training, the education, they do everything that's been asked of them to do. They get to year 15. They have a 45% discount off the price of that home. Whatever that home is, they're getting a 45% discount. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm not a math wizard either, but they are walking into that home with huge equity. We have helped people, 1, that would not ever have a chance to own a home, 2, to own a home, and 3, to walk in with instant equity and start to build wealth in families. And that's what we're here to do.
I made a phone call. I'm sorry.
Just saying, I'm able to answer the equation you were after when you were talking about the impact on the average income in the area. If they follow this income ratio based on what's in that area now, about 77% of the new homeowners coming in here would have a higher average income than those that live there now.
Well, there's no dispute, but the overall average of the income, the median income at the top, might go up $100.
Oh, the overall of the entire.
Overall.
Okay.
So this is no big economic boom for the Muncie area.
No, it'd just be positive.
Okay, now, I made a call regarding the federal regulations regarding this, and say I'm one of those people, I'm a newly married guy and I got a baby and I move into either 40 or 50% housing. And while I'm living there, I go to school, I get an education, I become a union man, and all of a sudden my income becomes substantially in excess of what the guidelines allow. What happens then?
Laney, she's our management guy.
I know what I was told, so
Sure.
I want to hear your answer.
Every year, each lessee is recertified to check their income against what they moved, their income percentage that they moved in at. If they exceed 140% of the income guidelines that they moved in at, they will be bumped up to the next level that they qualify.
So you could actually either bump up to the next level, or, which means that the rent, which we haven't seen for each of these on these slides tonight, would go up. I believe the bottom one was $533 a month.
$564.
$564 out of a family income of $30,000 a month before taxes.
Yes.
a pretty heavy lug when you got a, food and else, but okay, let's say they're able to do this. Say they actually do have some success, the spouse gets a job, and all of a sudden, they're over and above 140% of any of it. What happens then?
They get bumped up to the next percentage that they
Well,
would
I mean,
qualify.
the next one is $52,000.
It would depend on their income at that
What
point.
if you don't have any of those houses available? What I'm getting at is that what you sold to me in your presentation last week was that this is a chance for people with limited income to get the American dream. What this really is a rental village. You're leasing property with a possibility that at some future point, they will have an opportunity to buy a piece of property for an undetermined amount of money. If houses go up 5% a year, well, that's one thing. If they go, maybe they won't. Maybe we'll have a recession and they'll go down and they want to buy, and so they'll have a better deal. But the truth is, most of these people are going to lease this property. Most of these people are not building $1 of equity in this property. There is no equity. If I pay for 7 or 8 years and I get transferred in my job, or my wife takes a job and goes somewhere else and we got to move, I don't get anything for what I've paid, not 1 red cent. Whereas in a real buying situation, you build equity. So you're leasing property. But you're presenting this like this is really a realistic American dream scenario where you get to acquire your house. It's a contract for deed, really, is what it is. Call it a lease purchase, call it whatever, but it's a contract for deed. I got another question for you.
Can I address that one first?
Sure, go
With
ahead.
all due respect, I disagree
You weren't
with you.
saying anything, so I didn't think you were going to respond. Go ahead.
Our intent is, well, I'll back up first. Say that we have a family that qualifies at 40%. And over a period of time, they've entered into this agreement. Even if they haven't, just assume that they're a lessee. But they have gained a little education. They've used our computer labs. They've done some things. They've got a better job. They've increased their income past 140%. And we have to move them up to the 50% units. Is that a bad thing? We're helping families grow. I would just have to ask, is that a bad thing? I truly believe that it's not.
If you have a 50% unit available, you only have 8 there. What happens to the other 22?
The floating.
All of the income set-asides are floating, so it's not like they would have to move from one unit to another. If the 50% unit is available, that's what they will get. And usually they're, just from our past experience, there's usually 1 or 2 that are open and available for an income, or for a family that is over the income that they're currently at. I would also like to say that this project includes home ownership education. So if a family moves in, they don't even think that they have the ability to own a home, or maybe they think that their credit is too bad. Neighborhood Housing Services offers education to help people get in a better position to get a home loan. So even if they move in and think that they don't have an opportunity, we can help them achieve that opportunity.
And I would take that one step further through the education that our not-for-profit partner are nationally certified, by the way. Partner brings to the table as a certified home buyer trainer. We help to educate these folks. If they decide that they want to buy a house, but they don't want to buy one of ours and they want to move out into one of the other communities to buy a home, that's great. We've done our job.
I don't have any more questions, but I'd like to make a statement regarding this in terms of my position.
Okay.
And then I'll let other people have their say. It was told to me that the Hall Family Foundation has determined that 80% of the, I don't know what else to call it, low-income properties, supported by tax credits and other federal programs are in Jackson and Wyandotte County. Quite candidly, I think that the people that I speak with and I interact with believe that Wyandotte County has far too many of these homes as we currently exist. That what we need is not 30 new ones without 30 other ones going away. And they're not going away. They just keep continuing to stay here. And then there's a program that'll come along where they'll get a $8 million TIF, or not TIF, but federal loan guarantee to come in and renovate these properties. And they have a long-term effect on a neighborhood. Now, Muncie is in desperate need. Muncie is a local term for that particular area. I don't know if at one time it was a separate school district or part of the Turner School District. Township, probably. Muncie, Kansas?
Muncie Indians settled there.
Muncie Indians settled there. So it's called Muncie. I grew up in an area adjacent to it called Turner. We have other little areas that don't, that's not a legal name, but it is an area in desperate need of strong, new residential, high-end properties where people are earning at or far above what is called the market rate income there. Quite candidly, I don't know how on $52,000 a year a family of four can pay, I'm gonna get it wrong, $1,300 a month? That's more than my mortgage. I mean.
I'll wait till you're through.
And I dare say it's probably more than a lot of the people's mortgage sitting at this table. And you take $1,300 out of every month, and I had the number, but it's around 15 grand a year out of somebody that's gonna net, what, 45? A third of their income is gonna go for their housing. I think the chances of them succeeding under this design are very, very poor. I just honestly feel that we, as a commission, need to show leadership in a different direction. We don't need more of these homes. Some would even argue, some of my constituents have even stated clearly that we have far too many. But even if we stayed at the same amount, we're not doing what we need to be doing in that particular area. I know you're not from here. We have some light industrial projects that are going on to the north of this that are gonna, be nice employment opportunities, we hope, for others, and maybe something else down the line. But in residential properties, a neighborhood, this is the wrong project at the wrong location in a town that already is carrying the load over and above what we as the taxpayers can afford. And I just honestly, I'm gonna tell you, and I'm sure it's gonna be brought up, that there are projects that I would vote for and have voted for that use tax credits. This is not stabilizing a existing area we don't know where the people are gonna come from. They may come from Kansas City, Kansas. They probably will come some from KCK and some from other parts of the metropolitan area. We're not getting people that are in Muncie that need a place to live and they're gonna move into here. We're not redoing a historic landmark and preserving a blighted structure. There are circumstances under which, and I'll just say it bluntly, because I know it's been said and it's going to be said by somebody here, just because you vote for one tax credit-based project does not obligate you under different circumstances and factors to vote the same way on other ones. I am not convinced that this is the best thing for that part of the community, and I do not intend to support it.
Well, I respect your comments. I would just say the market rate units, the thing that I find important about that $52,000 number is the greater than symbol in front of it. Those market rate units are for folks 52,000 and above. In terms of the income people that the level of income of the people we're trying to help, the census tract that we proposed the site in, that you saw the site, the census tract that is, has been deemed by the federal government as a qualified census tract. That is based on income. So we're coming into a census tract where the incomes are low, and we're trying to provide an opportunity for safe, clean, affordable housing to take people from substandard housing into good housing, and to provide at least an opportunity to own a home somewhere down the road and to increase the value of the whole community. So I'll just leave it there. You know, we both could talk all day, so.
Commissioner Walters.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. I watched the presentation that you made to the standing committee, and I was interested in watching that because I had just come from a neighborhood meeting a week or two prior to that, and what they wanted to talk about was moderate income housing. They specifically said, you know, they have a lot of people in that neighborhood group who could not qualify for the low-income housing, and they wanted an alternative, some of which we have in our community, but they specifically wanted to know what the unified government was doing to make more moderate income housing available to the constituents. So we do have a market for it, as far as I'm concerned, based on the conversations I've had. And your project looks pretty solid to me. I do have some questions, though. Maybe you could just tell us, because you do have a lot of experience in this, some of your other projects that are similar, have they maintained this ratio of income levels over the course of the project? Or do they modify?
No, we make a concerted effort. We truly believe in the model that Belmont has, that we're in the business of providing low to moderate income housing for those families that need it. We try not to keep everybody in the same spot. As you can see here, we try to deal with different income strata within that community, and we try to do that in most all the developments that we do. Some 40% units, some 50, some 60, some market. So we're not leaving anybody behind.
But I guess my question is, has it been your experience that works, that over the...
Oh my, yes.
Over the term of your management, you're able to keep these ratios somewhat constant?
I would say yes, but I will let Lainey speak to that a little bit more. She's more on the management.
We're committed to keeping this particular number of units at this particular AMI. We have gone to KHRC, and we are committed to keeping 4 40% units, 6 50% units, 12 60% units at all times.
Well, I understand your commitment, but I'm really asking about your track record. Has it
Sure.
worked out that way?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
I'll take that one step further. With every project that any tax credit developer does, there is what they call a land use restriction agreement that gets filed, or as we like to call it in our world of acronyms, ALURA. That states in there, should this get approved through here this evening and we're granted, the only thing we're asking for is the resolution of support just to move forward. Should we be lucky to secure the affordable credits from KHRC and this project moves forward, when it's all said and done, the land use restriction agreement that gets recorded is going to spell this out. There's so many units at 40%, so many at 50, and we can't deviate from that. That's a recorded document.
Okay. Last question. Tell us about your management. What I've been hearing is that it's really important how well you manage your properties. You obviously have a track record of managing properties. So explain to us how that works. You have on-site presence, evidently, in your clubhouse.
I will just say that, one of the previous slides showed that we had well over 4,000 apartment units in 6 states. We self-manage every single apartment. We currently enjoy an average across those of about a 90% occupancy across those. In terms of management, and Lainey can speak a little more to that, as the developer, if you will, the numbers guy, if you will. She's more on the management. I'm sort of the numbers guy, and I get it built and I hand it to her and say, here, have fun. I can build the best project that I could possibly build, the creme de la creme of affordable income apartments. But if we don't have good management on the back end, it doesn't matter what I do on the front end. We have to have sound management, or the asset that we have developed. We're long-term owners in every single community in every single state that you saw. We are not short-term owners that come in and build and flip and sell and walk away. We are long-term owners. We're part of your community. We join the chamber. We pay our taxes, et cetera. If we don't have good management on the back end of that, the asset that we have developed very quickly is not worth much to us. So it's important, for us through good, sound tenant screening, all of those sort of things, good, the good property management policies, et cetera, to keep good tenants in there. So we have a long-term asset over time because we are long-term owners. Every single property that we have has on-site management and maintenance, as will be this. You saw the picture of the clubhouse previously. In there is 2 office spaces, one for our on-site management and one for our on-site maintenance. They will be there 40 hours per week. When they're not there, there is emergency numbers that any lessee can call should there be an emergency, and we jump right on that. But we believe in management. If we don't, over that 15 years, we really don't have much to try to sell anybody. And that's not what we're in the business of doing. This is an $8.2 million and change development. If I don't do a good job on the front end, they don't do a good job on the management side of that, in 15 years, my boss sitting there is going to fire me because he doesn't have an asset left.
Well, thank you again for coming up tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Commissioner Kane.
I wish you guys much success in a different location. I think this location is ready to pop. We just got done approving some light industrial out there. I think a lot of people will be looking at that saying, hey, you know what? How about I get some property down here? And that's for you guys. For my fellow commissioners, I've been here 11 years and I've never seen this happen where a commissioner was allowed to do something. And where you can change the rules as they go. Because if you don't get along with the mayor, then you're over here. But if you get along with the mayor, then he's willing to do something like this. Because everyone knows if the mayor jumps off James Street Bridge, Jane's right behind him. And
Point of order, we're not going to take personal attacks here.
I think this was exactly showing favoritism to a certain commissioner. This was wrong, never seen it before, shouldn't happen now. And because if you're on the opposite side where I'm at and you ask to bring something up, he's going to tell me no. But if you vote with him, he's going to tell you yes, and I'm not out of order. That's my personal opinion. You've done it more than once, and here you go again.
Commissioner Markley.
Can you go back to that slide that shows the pictures of your other properties?
I can,
Maybe.
is it forward? Hot dogs, I'm going to make it.
So you mentioned that these are in Oklahoma, and I also noticed the trees are pretty small. So I'm guessing these are relatively new developments.
Within the last 3 years or so.
So I'm pulling up some pictures online of other developments, and don't get alarmed, there's not trash piled up in front of any of them or anything. Some of them look very nice. Other ones look not as nice as that. And I pulled up the Kansas ones, so you know, because I wanted to see what they looked like. My question for you is, how are you going to make sure that our Kansas ones look like that? The ones that you're not driving by every day, that aren't near your house, and that you can't get to without an airplane. How do you make sure they look like that? Because I have an apartment complex in my district, and we have a manager there. We have a different manager like every 2 months. So there's no relationship between the community and that manager. The manager's always getting fired or leaving, and somebody new comes on. I want to know who we're going to contact, who Jane is going to contact when the properties don't look quite like that, and there are problems, like a lot of these have dead grass and dead shrubbery. Who does Jane call? Does she call the manager, who might not be here for longer than 2 months? Who do we make sure is maintaining this property when you're not with us here in Kansas City?
The first call that you're going to make is to the on-site management, which is us, and we are a long-term owner. We do not farm out or outsource or do what folks call third-party management. We're a vertically integrated company. I'm part of the development, we have management, we have construction. So we're a vertically integrated company that's going to be long-term members of your community. You can call on day one, it's going to be the same number, it's going to be the same management companies, it's going to be in year 9, month 6. It's going to be Belmont Management. We have on-site staff and personnel that are there 40 hours per week. If there's an issue, call, it gets taken care of just as quickly as possible. I will take that one step further. I don't know how much was shared with you folks over the course of the last 3 months, but part of the development budget includes over $280,000 in what we call reserve accounts that are for maintenance and upkeep. There's an operating budget that's over, I made myself a note, where'd it go? I don't have my arms aren't long enough, glasses on. Over $4,300 a unit per year in terms of operating expenses, which includes lawn maintenance. We're not going to depend on the lessee to keep their yard mowed over the term of that 15 years. Even if they've entered into a lease agreement to purchase the home, we understand how important it is to be a part of the neighborhood to keep the curb appeal attractive. Therefore, we will be providing, as the owner, snow removal, lawn maintenance. If shrubs die, we've got over $280,000 sitting there in a reserve account to take care of those items. One, we truly want to be a part of the community, and two, for a long period of time. It's just like I said, we'll join the chamber, we'll join the neighborhood group, we'll attend those meetings. We truly want to be a part of the fabric of that neighborhood and help to move it forward, if you will, in terms of income, et cetera. So we truly want to be a part of this long term.
How old is your oldest development period and then your oldest single-family development?
Pardon?
How old are your oldest developments? Your oldest, just totally your oldest, whether it's apartments or whatever, and then your oldest single-family development?
Well, that's going to come from Ryan, because I haven't been with the company.
It doesn't have to be exact, but just a rough estimate.
Well, we bought some properties.
You have to come up to the mic. You'll get yelled at if you don't.
My name's Ryan Hudsworth. We bought some properties, so I'm thinking late 70s are some of the oldest. And single family, it was probably 5 years.
Okay, so this is sort of your newer model, newer area. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Murguia.
Thank you. So I just have a few questions. Laney, is that your name? Laney?
Yes, ma'am.
And your name again, sir?
Greg.
Greg. So Greg, how long have you been with this company?
I've been with Belmont Development for almost 2 complete years now. I've been in this line of work for over 22 years.
Okay, and Laney, how long have you been in this line of work?
I've been with Belmont for about a year, and I've been in this industry for about 20.
Okay, for 20?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what is the typical percentage of success that you've had with these people that rent these homes from you becoming homeowners? What percentage of them actually purchase the home at the end of 15 years?
Right, that question was asked at the standing committee. I don't believe it was you that had asked, but we have not, I'll give you the same answer that I gave to the standing committee. We have not done a lease purchase project that 15 years has expired. So I can't sit here and tell you this is exactly what you're going to see. I will say that I have reached out over the last week since that question was asked. I don't like to be asked a question where I have to say, I haven't really done it, but, because we're not quite there yet. So I kind of thought maybe that question would come up again today. So I reached out to some folks a lot smarter than me in the industry that's been in this business a lot longer than me, the Cleveland Housing Network.
So Greg, I really appreciate that, but what I'm talking about is your projects. So I understand that other projects like this might be successful, but in my opinion,
then you're going to get the same answer. We have not. Belmont Development has not taken one.
No, Greg, you're not going to get the same answer. It really does matter who owns and manages the property. And this is my question. During standing committee, you had said that you and Laney live in Oklahoma.
Correct.
And I assume you're staying in Oklahoma.
Correct.
But tonight you have repeatedly told this commission that we are, pointing to yourselves, going to manage this property. And there's going to be property managers on here 40 hours a week. And there's going to be someone there, and that's Laney's job. Laney isn't going to be there. No. And this is the same story I heard in 2008 and 2009 from Central Park Towers developers when they also wanted LIHTC credits. This is the reality. You might be able to tell all of the other commissioners, I wouldn't say that you haven't told the truth, I just don't think you're necessarily very forthcoming. For example, out of your own good financial well-being, you are not keeping a reserve account and an operating budget with thousands of dollars. It is a requirement of the IRS and the low-income housing tax credit policy. So when you present it like you are so fiscally concerned and responsible for the condition of this property that you set these thousands of dollars aside, that's the impression that you left, and that flat out is not true. You are doing that because that is a federal requirement. This county, just to give you a little history, has not had good luck with absentee landlords and low-income housing. And I don't know how many times this county has to deal with the public safety issues, the code violation issues, and all the other issues that go along with this kind of housing before they just say enough is enough. Now, with all that said, I just wanted to also give the commission a little bit of perspective. Just as Charles had said, the commission was very concerned about this LIHTC policy. In 2014, we changed our policy. In October of 2014, since then, we've had 3 applications for this kind of housing. 2 of those 3 applications, which includes this one, were unanimously approved. The first one were 40 duplexes, which are actually 80 units, located again in Commissioner Philbrook's district. The second one was fairly close in proximity, located in Commissioner Walter's district. It was 82 duplexes, which makes for 164 units. So then I pulled today, I'm sorry I was scrambling because I heard this was going to be on the agenda just yesterday. So I went ahead and pulled.
Commissioner, it was published in the agenda on Monday.
Yeah, I didn't get it on Monday. I didn't get it till Tuesday.
Just letting you know.
But this item I didn't know was going to be on the agenda till the couple days before. So then I had staff, here it is. I had staff pull up for me the total number of housing permits that were pulled in all of Wyandotte County in 2015. There was only 149. Now I recognize in a meeting we had prior to all of you, Commissioner Walters asked a very good question. This commission is committed to developing Wyandotte County into a mixed income neighborhood. And he asked, what percentage makes up a healthy mixed income neighborhood? What percentage should be low income? What percentage should be middle income? And what percentage should be high income? The reality is that these projects, they're called LIHTC because that stands for low income housing tax credit properties. And I find it hard to believe that, well, whatever the math is on 164 units plus another 80 units in the same year, if you just want to go by building, that 100 and some buildings of residential, of low-income housing, balances out with 149 new housing permits. And I don't know if all of these 149 are fair market, because we have things like Section 8 vouchers that people use all over our county. So for me, it was a much bigger picture. I'm concerned about the economy of the whole county. We are over-concentrating our county with very low-income housing. And when you make reference to things like libraries, there is no way that that little clubhouse of 2,000 or 3,000 square feet could house a library. You talked about computer labs. There's no way you can have a library and computer labs in a 3,000 square foot clubhouse. It's just not possible. It's a sales pitch, and I feel the same way I did at standing committee. It's almost like a used car deal. I'm personally not interested. It's not my district. I don't, as I told the mayor, I don't feel particularly passionate about this issue. What I do feel very passionate about is the overconcentration of poverty in Wyandotte County. We are very good, hardworking people here, okay? And we've done more than our fair share, as is demonstrated in the Hall Family Foundation study, to take care of the poor and the needy and to help them get on their feet. I think this is a massive overconcentration. We've approved enough applications. I don't think it sounds like a good deal. And that's all I have to say.
I would like to chime in quickly. I do favor the project. I think that $140,000 is about the cost of building each of these, is that right?
141.
The house to my east and to the west in my neighborhood and the house across the street, all three have sold in the last 5 years for significantly less than $140,000. The median residential property in Wyandotte County is valued at $67,000. These properties are double the median value, though percentage-wise it's not going to change the median value, but it's a step in the right direction. There are no tax incentives in this by the local government. There's no property tax abatement, there's no TIF involved. We've done TIF for residential properties, and our TIF projects have not been successful. This is entirely tax credits that go through the state, and our role is to set the standards by which the rules are made, and then if they meet it, to recommend it or not to the state. My concern is we set the rules clearly. They hit a home run on the score sheet, and we said, we're not playing baseball, we're playing football. So you needed a touchdown instead of a home run. So they scored the highest on this project of any LIHTC project we've had, and we said, but that's not good enough. We've talked about a number of criteria that if we need to rework our LIHTC understanding, I'm prepared to do that. I would send that back to economic development immediately and have the economic development group come up with the criteria to establish what is the criteria for a low-income tax credit project that we would be willing to support. Because we did come up with that matrix, they hit it out of the park, and now we're saying, but that's not good enough. So if they miss something, if it's in the wrong location, if it's in the wrong setting, if it's in property that we don't want them to use, we need to outline that all ahead of time so that we don't waste developers' time and we don't waste our economic development's time in actually meeting and exceeding the criteria and then saying, well, but we changed the rules again. I think we set great parameters. They met the parameters. I think this is a good project that meets our criteria, and we should support it. I think this is the kind of housing project that's great for Muncie, and I think while statistically it's not going to transform our 66,000 residences or our 155,000 people, I think it is a step in the right direction. Commissioner McKiernan.
It's me. So I have to say that when I originally looked at this, and I was one of the ones who wasn't at the meeting that night. Sorry, I was in the Flint Hills of Kansas, and I couldn't have gotten a phone signal if I'd have tried to call in. But as I originally looked at this, actually, it looked pretty good to me. And my first question was, how are the specifics and the mathematics of this project materially different from the other projects that we've previously approved? And it's an honest question. I don't know. How are the specifics and the mathematics of this project different than projects that we've previously approved?
See, you looking at me, Commissioner.
I
will.
guess there is no answer to that.
I will have to look to Charles. I don't know if you have on that, but we'd have to break out and see what the value was of other single-family projects that we put in. Do you know?
I don't know right offhand, sir, but you are correct on that.
Well, one of the reasons I say that is that, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the LIHTC program from the beginning was that it was to promote affordable rental.
Correct.
And that purchase is a benefit. It's a happy outcome of an affordable rental. Am I correct on that? That was the original purpose of the LIHTC program, was to promote affordable rentals. It's interesting, I look at this, and one of the things that made me say this was, these are $150,000, is that correct? Sorry, I have to keep putting my glasses on because I can't see my iPad if I have them on. There you go. So these are $150,000, the estimated appraised value, is that correct?
No, sir. Roughly, the bricks and mortar on one of these homes is $187,900 to build.
That's not what I asked. What's the estimated appraised value?
Right, and then if we do a multiplier on that, we can get an estimated roughly of $166,000. If it was, you had it at 210?
Yeah, we're at
210,536. If you do an estimated economic multiplier on that, you can get it estimated roughly around 166.
So we're estimating 166. I just went and looked up American Community Survey data for 2009 through 2013. The median for the state of Kansas in those data are 128,400. These exceed the median for the state. Mm-hmm. And now granted, that median was calculated 3 years ago on a 5-year epoch of data, but that finished 3 years ago. And the median for the state of Kansas in that same time period was 93.8. I'm sorry, the median for Wyandotte County was 93.8, and the median for the state was 128.4. This exceeds both, and I'm having a hard time figuring out why that's a bad thing. I just have to be honest. I'm having a hard time figuring out why that's a bad thing, because it would seem to me that with the assistance of with the assistance you're able to provide through the tax credits, because effectively you can substitute income from the project with the tax credits and still pay off all the money that you borrowed to build this, seems to me you are enabling people in Wyandotte County to upgrade their housing, or those that might not otherwise be able to afford it, which was, my understanding, the original intent of the program. I just have some other... I want to make sure that everybody understands that getting a resolution of support from the unified government in no way, shape, or form guarantees that they are going to be funded by the state of Kansas, because ultimately the state of Kansas is the arbiter and the decider of these. And I don't know lately, but the last time I checked with the state, there were about 4 times more ask than there was money to give.
Probably a conservative estimate, too.
I think I'd heard it was like 56 worth of ask and about 15 worth of give the last time I looked. I think Commissioner Murguia may have asked one of the questions that I had was, are there figures on the typical conversion to ownership of a LIHTC single-family home? How often does that happen? How often do they convert to ownership? How often do they stay rental after the 15-year period?
Well, I think it was one of those, the original intent of the low-income housing tax credit was to provide equity to developers to develop low to moderate income rental homes. One of the benefits of that the not-for-profit community saw nationwide was there's a 15-year compliance period here. This whole lease purchase concept did not come out of Section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code. Only the credit did. But some creative individuals around the country saw an opportunity here through good education, good training, wait for that 15 years until the credit compliance burns off to find opportunities to convert these low to moderate income renters, if you will, into homeowners. It's not, I won't say it's a new concept. Probably the industry leader, as I started to say a while ago, was the Cleveland Housing Network. They've done over 3,300 since the tax credit was, came about through the change in the code in 1986. They've done over 3,300 single-family rental units, for lack of a better word, and converted those families through good education and training, the same that we're proposing here, into home ownership. Through good education and training, of that 3,300, the default rate is less than the national average. That speaks, I think, volumes to the education and the training that's provided along the way, to help families learn about credit, how to clean up credit, what it takes to own a home, et cetera. But out of these 3,300, just the Cleveland Housing Network did, the default rate was below the national average on conventional loans. And I think that speaks volumes.
One of the things that we've discussed here is the fact that, and this is a fact, that we in Wyandotte County have been very unfortunately treated by people who own property here but who do not live here, and frankly do not take care of their property here. But this is a policy question for all of us that I want us to consider is whether or not we are going to mandate that LIHTC projects be built by developers who either live or are headquartered in Wyandotte County. And if that's the case, then that changes the game over what we have done previously. And so just a policy question that I'm going to bring up. There is no resolution to that. I just want to make sure I get that out. My computer has officially died, so let me go back and see.
If I could add one thing, please,
Sure.
while you're looking at your computer. I know the comment was made that we did a bait and switch, that Laney and I aren't going to live here. If I implied that, I apologize. I tried to stress from the beginning, the Belmont Companies is vertically integrated. We have Belmont Development, we have Belmont Management, we have Belmont Construction. I'm on the development side. I am not, even though I've lived in Kansas City, in Blue Springs, my entire adult life except the last 11 years, I'm not going to live up here. I'm not going to manage that. Our company, Belmont Management, will be the on-site manager, not Laney and not myself. If I implied that, I apologize. But we not only hire folks local to be our manager, we provide them training so they understand the tax credit program itself. We do our best, even though it's just a few, we do our best to create full-time permanent jobs. On the construction side, we create what we call full-time temporary jobs. Once it's built, those jobs sort of go away. But we will have on-site 40 hours per week manager and maintenance. It's not going to be Laney and it's not going to be me. It's going to be folks that we hire from your neighborhoods. We provide them training. They become part of Belmont Management Company. So if I implied that, that Laney and I are going to live down the street and I tried to do a bait and switch, that was not my intent. And if that's the way it came across, I do apologize.
And then one last thing that I want to explore just a little bit is Commissioner Walker made the comment, and I have no doubt of the accuracy of these figures, that 80% of the low-income people in the metro area live in Jackson and Wyandotte counties. Historically, I would say that there have probably been trends and decisions, civic decisions, community decisions that have led to concentration of people with low means in Wyandotte and Jackson counties. But I know that there is a tension that exists then when you want to try to build a LIHTC project, a low-income housing tax credit project. And the tension is this: where do you put it? Do you put it in the area where the low-income folks already live? Do you upgrade their neighborhoods? Do you give them a better condition in which to live that they can afford? Do you raise the property values in those areas? Do you reduce blight and reduce crime in those areas, but keep poverty effectively concentrated? Because if the only place we build affordable housing is in places where people with no means already live, that's where they're always going to live. So there's a tension.
Exactly.
There's pros and cons of building in areas where we already have concentrated poverty. The flip side of that is, are we going to build outside of those areas? Are we going to build in areas where there isn't concentrated poverty? Are we going to build in communities of opportunity and give people a place that they can move to and still afford? And there's pros and cons to that as well. There are pros and cons that have to do with, frankly, whether or not some of the, I've been reading a lot about this over the past week, and one of the things that I have read is a quote by a young lady, and she may not be representative of everyone, but she says she doesn't want to move out of the area that she's lived all her life. She wants to have development in that area. So I understand that there are pros and that there are cons to either place you build it. There's an upside and a downside to either place. I'll just say that as the commissioner of a district that has 34% poverty rate and an aging housing stock, I am challenged to figure out how we're going to create housing that is affordable to the people in my district who are already here, and at the same time build a stronger economic base for the future. I haven't figured it out yet. Maybe someday I will. I see there's a lot of other people who have questions.
Commissioner, do you want to stay in a position on this, or I'm just asking questions? Philbrook. Commissioner Philbrook.
I've been called worse. Let's see. Going back to all this, I'm not overall in favor of loading us up with a lot more properties that are Section 8 or low, as I call it, low income, because we already have plenty of those, okay? But in my district, I actually do have the highest number of 42 housing, okay, which nobody realized that until I told them. And the fact that I'm willing to have another one come in doesn't mean that I want to have the highest number. I'm not trying to create something to strive for. But what I do realize is that we need decent housing that I can at least know is going to be worth something at the end of 15 years. Okay? And that people can afford to get in and eventually possibly buy if that's what they choose. Now, people don't have to come in and be there the whole time. They can come in and, 10 years into it and still buy, all right? Because who knows what the housing market's gonna push. But I want to tell all the commissioners here and everybody that's listening that as I grew up, we had a lot of rental property. And we actually sold some of our rental property, rent to buy, the thing that has gotten the nastiest reviews. But there are a lot of people that ended up in homes because we did that, okay? Or they bought business property, or that was actually a rental apartment building, and one of the people that lived in it ended up buying it and renting out the rest of it. So rent to buy or lease to buy doesn't have to be a nasty word.
And it shouldn't be.
And so I have to make that point. I just think that sometimes that gets an unfair hit. And especially for some people that just haven't been able to put the money back to be able to own a piece of property and take care of it. Okay? Now, I know I've taken a lot of heat for asking that this be brought back to the commission. So be it. And I didn't know I was the first, but I don't really care. What I do care about is that our community gets to hear about the possibility of a new housing project, and that I'm definitely for it. And I haven't had any of my constituents come forth and stomp on my toes telling me not to turn it down. Okay, so that's where I am.
Commissioner Walters.
I have a question for Charles, and I'm sorry to hit you with this without any warning, but the previous LIHTC projects that we've approved, and I'm particularly thinking of the one that is in District 7, just south of State, had about 86th or 88th. Do you remember that project?
Yes, sir. Actually, I brought some information about the last three.
Okay, so my question is, do you know the status of that?
It was not funded by the state.
So that's not going forward?
No, sir.
Well, okay, so my recollection of that, as Commissioner Murguia reminded me just now, a lot of duplexes, a lot of concentration, a bigger project than this. I don't recall single-family units. I don't recall brick exteriors. And so it appears to me that this is a much more desirable project than the one that we previously approved. And if I had to choose between the two, I would certainly choose this one, which has 30 single-family units as opposed to 40 or whatever the number was duplexes on a pretty constricted site. So I just wanted you to confirm that that project's not going to happen, I guess.
Well, it's not that it won't happen, is if they don't get funded, they can always reapply, and then they can get funded and the project would move forward.
Do they have to come back before us again?
No, sir.
Okay.
There's no expiration date of the resolution.
Well, thank you. As that was mentioned, I'm recalling that project, and I just wanted to say again, I think this is a far superior project to me. Thank you.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening again, Mr. Rodewald, Ms. Schubert. Let me pick up on the thing that Mr. Commissioner Walters brought up. If, unfortunately, you do not receive the tax credit, how will that impact this project?
If we do not receive an allocation in this fiscal year's worth of credits, if you will, from KHRC, when they make their funding announcements, when they allocate credits to X number of developments across the state, should we get our allocation of credits that we have asked for, then we start to move forward. You know, of course, that all assumes that we get the resolution of support from this commission. If we don't get the resolution of support from this commission, we don't even have an opportunity to get turned down on the credits. Assuming we get this resolution, no incentives, just resolution, we move forward and the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation awards our project. We will know that in May, and we will get what is called a conditional commitment of credits, and then we'll start to slowly move that process forward. Should we not be successful, then we do have an opportunity should we decide to pursue that opportunity. I'm not saying we would, I'm not saying we wouldn't, but we would have an opportunity if there's no expiration on the resolution of support to come back the following February when applications are due to the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. They're due every February. We would have an opportunity to reapply in February and then hopefully receive that allocation that we need to move this project forward at that time. So that's sort of how that process works. If we don't receive any credits this coming May in just 60 days or so, then we'll have to, as an organization, sit down and have a conversation. Do we want to continue to spend funds to pursue this project? We've got over $25,000 in this right now and haven't even gotten the resolution of support. We believe in Kansas City, Kansas. We believe in this market. So should we not get allocated our credits in May, then we'll have to sit down and have those conversations. We may continue to move forward and reapply in February of 2017. We may make that decision. That's above my pay grade. That comes from the folks that write the checks as to whether or not they would move forward again. So that's sort of how that process works.
Okay. Well, assuming you get what you need from us, but you don't get the funding, then what I'm hearing you say is that those above the pay grade would have to decide if they're going to go forward with the project.
If we're going to reapply to the Kansas Housing Resource Corporation, which is the state housing finance agency that administers the tax credits for the state of Kansas.
Well, let me ask it another way. Would you go forward and build this project without having to apply? Let's take the tax credits out of it. Without the tax credits.
And just do strictly a conventional property. That's something that once again, I'm not going to put my boss on the line and say, heck yeah, we'll build them.
Okay.
But, that is something that we would have to come back and look at our market study, that we discussed in front of the standing committee. We commissioned an independent third-party market study, an appraisal on the land, an environmental study on that 12.5 acres. We know what's sitting there. We know what it's worth. Our market study showed us that in the primary market area, which doesn't encompass all of Wyandotte County, but our primary market area that the market analysts determined this is where we will draw our lessees from, the data indicated that there was over 581 households living that were eligible to live here, either in substandard housing or something else, but we had access to over 581 households that would meet the income criteria plus the market to live in Legacy Park Estates. They took that one step further and put that into what we call a capture rate, which we look at that very, very closely. The capture rate was 5.6%. So it basically, that market study said to us, we have to capture only 5.6% of the 581 available households sitting out here to reach sustaining occupancy. In other words, to lease up and have a viable project. In our frame of thinking, the way we do business, those are amazing numbers. I only have to capture less than 6% of all the available rental households out there to fill up my property. These are the markets that we want to be in.
Okay. Well, I did attend the standing committee, and I was moved by the portion of your presentation that was about moving from renting to ownership. I was, as I said, disappointed to learn that you really don't have a track record for that yet. But just looking at the type of housing and the project, there is a market for that. Now, I've heard loud and clear from other commissioners, as I learned, about the LIHTC properties, that management is key. So I was thinking at the time that Commissioner McKiernan made his statement that maybe what this commission has to address is who can come in and build these, so we can reach out and touch you, you figuratively speaking, if we're not getting the responsiveness to management in these properties. That seems to be, as much as anything, the problem that I'm hearing with this type of project. Having said that, if those homes look like that and continue to look like that, I would love to see someone who lives in my district, maybe on 3rd Street right now, move into a situation like that. I gather that's what this is about. I think it's the management thing, and woe to anybody who's coming up here from what I'm getting, and including me, if we're not going to be able to hold you accountable, because we plan to do that. I think that is really the issue as I'm hearing it with these properties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bynum. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
No, go ahead.
Just as an afterthought, I was the one who raised the question about whether or not, because of the nature of the LIHTC, that this could move forward. And I bring that up only because of some of the other comments here tonight. But I'm glad that the other commissioners that we in BELMONT got a chance to hear this and talk about it tonight, whatever the beliefs were. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bynum.
The neighborhood meeting, I believe you held a neighborhood meeting, did you not?
Correct.
I don't have any record of that in my packet. I'm curious if you could tell us how it went, what was the reaction of the neighborhood to your project?
There were only, I think there were 9, I'm sorry. Do you have that in here?
Yeah, we have the exact data. We actually pulled a radius analysis from Commonwealth Title here in Kansas City, Kansas, and sent an invite, a flyer, to a neighborhood meeting for every parcel owner within 1,000 feet of our site. And we worked with, I forget, Fairview Baptist Church, I believe, rings a bell.
So
we
how
worked
many
with their
invites
clientele
was
there.
that? How many invites did that end up being?
Do you recall how many certified letters we sent out?
I believe it was between 50 and 60.
Okay, thanks.
We only had 9 or 10 maybe show up, but we worked to invite a lot of folks. We worked with Fairview Baptist Church and the pastor and his congregation there to make a donation, if you will, to rent some space there to have the neighborhood meeting. Charles was there. The landowners who we are, purchasing the land from were there. Out of the 50 to 60 some certified letters, return receipt that were sent out, we had 8, 9, maybe less than 10 show up. But we did put forth the effort to reach out.
And what was the outcome in terms of support for the project from the 10 that attended the neighborhood meeting?
I will let Charles speak on behalf of the city, but my own personal opinion on behalf of Belmont and the Belmont companies, I felt really good about the meeting. The outcome was good. The comments were good. They had a lot of wonderful questions, as you folks have had as well. But I wouldn't go as far as to say that we received out-and-out opposition. You know, it was just a good meeting, I thought, so.
So the developer from Buchanan's Crossing was there, and he just had a concern brought up about the sewage. You know, the way that he's having a problem having to go aerial and tie in. Well, that isn't really an issue with this project. Well, it's not an issue because the engineer was in our staff meeting with Belmont, and all they're doing is raising the ground up so it goes downhill versus having to tie into a line down the road. So that was his main concern. He did say that he's all for development and stuff, you know, so that was good. Other than that, you know, the owners of the land, I believe, was there. This gentleman right here was here at the meeting, and it was fairly, I mean, there was a little opposition. The Turner folks came there, and I guess they denied, you know, didn't want it because it was a rental property, but it's a lease-to-own project. But I would say overall,
Yeah.
Say Turner people, do you mean Turner community members or Turner School District? I just
no,
want to
Turner
clarify.
community.
Okay.
So I forget her name, Commissioner Philbin. Barbara Kill, yes, she showed up. So I would say if you put a percentage on it, it's close to 95% agreed to it.
Thank you. My next question's for you also. The project would be lease to own?
Yes.
So contract for deed, are those two terms interchangeable?
Well, I'll let Greg talk on the
What was
lease.
the question? I apologize.
Is it a contract deed?
The project is lease to own, and we talk a lot here about contract for deed, and I'm wondering if those two terms are interchangeable. And my-
Probably not legally, no. We have the standard, for lack of a better word, rental agreement that every lessee who decides just to rent, just to lease a home from us, that they will sign. If they want to be a part of the lease purchase, there is an option agreement that spells out, that has been blessed by KHRC, who has done this in the past. There's an additional document that they enter into, and entering into that, they also agree to participate in the home buyer education and the various educational and training opportunities that we have.
And the reason I'm asking is, it sounds like the answer I just heard is, some might be rental, some might be leased for purchase.
In a perfect world, we would love to have all 30 tenants day one say, we would love an opportunity to
Some
own
might
this
be
home.
rental, correct.
That would be our preference, but we can't force anyone. I mean, if they want to live there as a lessee and just rent the single-family home, that's entirely up to them. We want them to know that they have an opportunity to
So
own.
the real question I'm getting at, Mr. Brockman, is if rental, then we have a rental licensing ordinance here.
Yes.
That would be complied with, I assume. And if lease for purchase, we require those to be registered in our Register of Deeds office. And I think it kind of speaks a bit to Commissioner Townsend's and really everyone else's desire that if the project is successful, management be accessible and responsible. If it's a lease for purchase, we exempt those out of our rental license and we treat those folks as homeowners. And so that's a whole different set of issues, and I'm just trying to get some clarification around which one of those are we dealing with? Or maybe we're dealing with a mixture of both. I'm sorry.
Won't you have on-site no matter what?
Right.
You'll have on-site management
Yes,
regardless of...
on-site management.
Regardless of the 30 individual agreements, you'll have on-site management. All right, thank you.
100%.
Also, just in general, we've had some Section 42 tax credit applications fairly recently in the community that I would consider successful. Pemberton Place at 82nd and approximately Everett have been very successful, and I believe they're full. We have out at 131st or 126th and just north of State, we have Delaware Highlands. So we've seen some pretty successful Section 42 tax credit projects, I would say, in the last 5 to 10 years in this community. I don't know that a low-income housing tax credit project dooms us to poverty concentration in the community. I think we've been fairly successful. My predecessors have been pretty successful at allowing those kinds of projects to proceed in multiple places across the community. So that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Philbrook.
I move that we bring item number 2, Resolution 16502.
There's been a motion and second to approve. I don't see any other comments. Roll call.
Roll call, Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Walker,
No.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia,
No.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
No.
Walters. It's going to be 6-4. The motion carries.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our agenda. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We are adjourned.